Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video of reviewing the tax returns for the 2020 presidential candidates. And this week we're going to do a person that I've gotten the most interest in. I've gotten the most messages from people asking me when I'm going to look at this return. Probably because he's someone that talks quite a bit about finances and is kind of seen as the enemy of quote unquote rich people. And that is Senator Bernie Sanders. He's a Democratic socialist, which is entirely confusing to me. I've read the definition a million times and I still get confused, but that's neither here nor there. He has a ton of very bold ideas, some of which I personally agree with, some of which I personally don't agree with. He's very polarizing. Some people love him, or actually, most people either love him or hate him. There's no middle ground. So again, these are not to get into any political aspects on their ideas, anything like that. But I do find it fascinating to look at how their returns compare to what they are saying politically. And since Bernie Sanders is so extreme, for lack of a better word, on the income, what he talks about with income ideas, distribution of wealth, if you want to call it that, it is interesting to see how his personal finances look. So I'm going to do something a little different that I haven't done yet. Before we dive into the latest return that he filed, 2018's return, I want to look at his 2014 and 2016 returns. To the left, you can see that I have the 2014 return, and to the right over here, you can see the 2016 return. And the reason I want to look at this is because you will see how things changed from 2014 when almost no one had heard of him to 2016 when he became very, very popular because of the 2016 campaign. So 2014, just take a quick look. He had a $156,000 salary as a U.S. Senator, a paltry $11 in interest income, almost nothing in dividends, $2 in dividends. He had $4,900 in business income. He had just under $5,000 in pensions or annuities, meaning retirement vehicles either from a job him or his wife had or an annuity they were invested in. And they had Social Security benefits. Combined, they had $46,000. $39,000 of that was taxable because of how the system works. Okay, so 2014, $205,000 in total income, right? Not a bad amount of income at all. Most of our nation would love to have that income. But let's take a look at what happened after he got popular here. Right, so his salary went down to $137,000. His interest went up to $139, which is a big jump from $11. And here's the big difference. Just under $800,000 in business income, which came exclusively from his book royalties. Okay, so being popular pays well is the bottom line of what I'm getting at here. They also had $93,000 in those pensions or annuities, their retirement stuff, and Social Security was roughly the same, $51,000 total. But the big difference that those book royalties went up to nearly $800,000 in 2016. So enormous difference from 2014 when almost no one had heard of him to 2016 when he was one of the most popular political figures in the world. And again, that's I have zero issue with that. Some people do, some people don't. I'm just showing you that the guy hustled. He hustled, he got popular, and it made him a little bit of money. And I know maybe one thing that people might want to see is what he did with that income as far as giving back. So to me personally, this doesn't matter, but I know a lot of you are interested. So let's just take a real quick look at how that giving went up from 14. So you can see here, these are his itemized deductions for 2014 versus 2016. The first thing that I see here is that he pays a whole lot in real estate taxes, his property taxes. He paid just about $15,000 in 2014 and just over $16,000 in 2016. So apparently he either lives in a very expensive house that's worth a lot of money or Vermont has a whole lot of property taxes, pretty high property taxes. His mortgage, he has a lot of mortgage interest. He paid just about $23,000 in mortgage interest in 14, just over $21,000 in 16. So he does have an expensive home. We can safely conclude that. Just, I guess, to give you a rough idea, I have a mortgage that had an original balance of about $341,000, and I would guess we pay $15,000 a year in mortgage interest. So $23,000 in mortgage interest means his is quite a bit more than that, his mortgage. Finally, the important part I wanted to look at here, in 2014, when his income was $200,000, basically $205,000, he gave $8,000 to charity, another $352 to Goodwill or something like that, non-cash gifts. In 2016, when that total income jumped all the way up to about $1 million, his charitable donations were $10,600. So not much of a difference. And again, that's not, to me, that's no problem whatsoever. You do with your money what you want. A lot of people like to see what they're doing with that money, especially in this case where someone is, he wants that more of the income to be used for less privileged people. And let me point out, I've done this every time, but I want to be very clear here. Senator Sanders not having a lot of donations on his tax return does not mean he's not being generous with his money. This only reflects donations that were made to IRS-approved nonprofits, 501c3 organizations. So he could very well be being very generous with his money, but this is what his donations look like on the tax return side. So just interesting to see. A lot of people like to see that. One final thing I got a good laugh at when I saw it, and the same held true. Who prepared his tax return? Self-prepared. All right, and that remained true in 2016, even when he was making $1 million. He prepared his own tax return, which I found downright. Number one, I found it impressive, assuming he did it right. And number two, I find it just hilarious. Guy's making $1 million and preparing his own tax return. So congrats, Senator Sanders. So that was interesting. Now let's go jump ahead and look at 2018. Okay, so here's the 2018 return. I apologize, this is taking up a lot more than just the return itself because I was looking at two returns at once and apparently can't change it mid-recording. So that's why it's so big here. But this is 2018 return. Number one, you can see right away, he prepared his own tax return in 2018. Maybe I'm the only one that finds this hilarious, but I find it hilarious, right? Guy's pretty wealthy. He's pretty popular. He's got a lot going on these days with his tax return, and he prepares his own tax return. So, again, congratulations, Senator Sanders, assuming you did this all correctly. And look, it looks good at first glance. I have no idea if it's accurate, but it looks like he has a rough idea what he's doing. So, well done. So this 2018, Senator Sanders had just about $134,000 in W-2 wages, which came as a U.S. Senator. He had $381 in income. So again, we looked at 2014. He had $11 in interest income. Go jump that up to 2018. He had $381. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that actually is a big difference because of how interest works and how low the percentage is, which just shows you that after that book that he wrote that got him up to $1 million of income in 2016, he had a lot of money in the bank and was making a lot more money. $1 total in dividends, so he's still not investing all that much. His IRAs, individual retirement accounts, he pulled out $5,200 there. Social Security, same as it was in those years we looked at, basically $51,771, and that's combined with him and his wife Jane. Right here, line 6, we can see business income, which again we'll look at closer, but this is from his book royalties. They were down to $383,000. So that first year in 2016, they were $800,000 just about. They're down to $383,000, and that's not to say his book became less popular. That's generally the way it works. They go down each year. Which gets us to his adjusted gross income of $561,293, which is a very high income. Puts him in that top 1% that a lot of people like to rail about, and Senator Sanders being one of them. But it is far less than the $1 million he made in 2016. We can see that he had itemized deductions of $41,764, which we'll look closer at, giving him total taxable income of $519,529. All right. And he had total taxes of 133,214 total income taxes. Other taxes involved, which we may be able to look at closer, but could be from a wide variety of things, including self-employed taxes, 12,626, bringing his total tax bill for the year 2018 to $145,840. Okay, he had $22,573 withheld from his paycheck, leaving him a remaining balance to pay of $137,573. So and then he had estimated taxes. He paid in estimated taxes of $115,000. So his total balance he had to pay at the end of the year when he filed his taxes was $8,267. And look, since he prepared his own taxes, that means he came up with his own estimated payments. He did a pretty dang good job. Okay, he was within $8,200 of what he actually owed on more than $560,000 in income. So that's a good job. Okay, so here's the itemized deduction page. Again, one that a lot of people like to look at. Number one is, I've pointed this out with both Senator Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. They got hit pretty hard by the tax law change where they can only deduct $10,000 of state taxes. In Senator Sanders' case, he paid $53,000 in state taxes. He paid $11,000 in real estate taxes, which, now that I'm looking at that, that's down considerably from where he was at in 2016. So his taxes went down. And giving him total taxes of $65,000. He was only allowed to deduct $10,000 of that. In the past, he would have been able to deduct all $65,000. Now he can only deduct $10,000. So I can tell you, without knowing anything else, he's probably not a big fan of the tax law changes. His mortgage interest has also went down quite a bit from the last couple of returns we looked at with him. It was $23,000, I think, in 2014. Now it's all the way down to $13,000, which tells me, number one, either he refinanced, paid a large chunk off that mortgage, paid a second mortgage off. He did something to reduce that by quite a bit, because that wouldn't happen naturally just by paying it off a couple years. So my guess is he had a line of credit or a second mortgage that he paid off with that windfall from the book sales. The big one that everyone wants to see, he gave donations to qualified IRS charities of $18,500. So out of his roughly $560,000 of income, he gave donations to qualified IRS charities of $18,500. Line 12 here made me laugh as a tax preparer. Because remember, Senator Sanders prepares his own tax return. And line 12 is when you give gifts other than cash, okay? And this is almost entirely people who give to Goodwill, Salvation Army, places where you can go and donate your clothes and household items, right? And you're allowed to deduct the value of those. And you can deduct as much as you want. There's no limitation here, aside from 50% of your income, which would be extraordinarily high in this case, over $250,000. But there is a limit of $500 that you can put on there and not have to list out everything you donated. So as tax preparers, we're always encouraging clients to keep that under $500 so that they don't have to list that out. Well, what do you know? Senator Sanders comes in at $450. So I'm telling you right now, Senator Sanders knows a thing or two about preparing tax returns. That's a magic number that us tax preparers like to be at. Okay, here is Schedule C. This is a form where he reports those business earnings. In this case, his business earnings are his book royalties. We can see here that they're book royalties Macmillan, which is probably just the publisher. An interesting thing here, I'm not going to bother to show it, but he actually has several of these Schedule C's from several different publishers. Most of them are very small, $1,000, $100 on one of them. This is the main one that almost all of the income actually comes in at, so we're going to look at this one. But kind of funny, I don't know what the deal is there, why he has them from several different sources, or why he reported them on separate Schedule C's. I've been praising Senator Sanders on his ability to prepare his own return, but I'm going to have to call him out here a little bit on this one. Those probably should have all been reported under the same Schedule C. No big deal. He reported it all. So we can see here he had $391,000 in total royalties. We can see that he claimed $10,000 in expenses, which we'll see what that was in a minute. So he had net income from these royalties of $381,000, which is down quite a bit from 14 when, remember, they were $800,000. So the expense we can see here was $10,000, and that was for editing fees. So he paid an editor $10,000, and he deducted that expense, rightfully so. Okay, so that's actually all the interesting pages on Senator Sanders. They all get to choose, first of all, whether they even release a return or not. Obviously, we have a current sitting president who's one of the only people ever who've chosen not to release theirs, so he didn't even have to do this. And when they do it, they get to choose how much or how little they want to provide. A lot of them release almost every form. Some of them are more limited. Senator Sanders is kind of in between, a little bit more limited. So there wasn't as many interesting forms to dissect here, but we got the main stuff. To me, the biggest and the most interesting thing about Senator Sanders is how this return has evolved from 14 before he was popular to 16 when he got very popular, all the way to 18 when obviously he's still very popular, one of the leading candidates at this point for nomination of the Democratic Party. Again, Senator Bernie Sanders has a ton of very big ideas in the way of income and taxation. So it's interesting to see how his own return shapes up, especially considering, I'm going to keep saying this because it just fascinates me, he prepared his own return. All very interesting to me. I know a lot of you guys have been specifically asking me for this return, because you were interested in for the same reasons. So this is it. He didn't even give us a state return. I wish we could see what a state return looked like. Not that it tells all that much, but we get a rough idea that he paid roughly somewhere in the range of $50,000 in taxes to the state. So the man pays some taxes. And I guess one more interesting thing I'll point out is when he talks about taxing the top 1%, he's in the top 1%. So I assume he includes himself that he'll be hit harder in those policies, which is good to know. So that's it for this one. Please let me know. Continue to let me know if you have someone specific that you want to see. I really want to do Joe Biden, considering he's the front runner in the Democratic Party at this point, but he has not released any returns since 2015, since he ran for the last time he ran for vice president. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know when he'll release those, but I assume at some point he'll release 2018, and that's what I'm saving his for. But there's tons and tons of candidates out there, and most of them have released them, so we'll have a new one next week.